So I knew that I will have challenges in finding a job. And I was right. When I started looking for a job, I had the first hurdle I faced that I don't have any Canadian experience. Initially, I tried to look for a job. I find a job. I work for 6 months, then COVID happens. So everybody gets shut down. I also get laid off. I had to change my CV to show that I'm willing to start as an accountant. It's basic. Like I thought I am going back to Dubai 15 years back when I started 2003. So I ended up getting a job because I started connecting with a lot of people within our community who were chartered accountant, a CPA. First interview, that's it. After they will call me, they will let me know what they will come back to me. So I guess because they always find a better person than me who are younger, more energetic, locally qualified, local experience. If you want to find a job through LinkedIn, I applied so many jobs on LinkedIn, I never get a call. Never ever. And at the time I didn't know. Now I realize that I never put any content on LinkedIn.
Hello friends. In today's podcast, my guest is Junaid Zikr. Junaid has successfully immigrated to Canada. And when I use the word successfully, I really mean someone who has assimilated in Canada, someone who has built a social circle and has work, which is a well-to-do income. Now, I most oftenly say that the best age to come to Canada is when you are under 40. It is easy to form a social circle, and more importantly, it is easy to find work and make a living in Canada when you're under 40. The older you get after that, it becomes harder and harder. Now, Junaid Zikr is an exception to the rule. He came to Canada at age of 45 and was not just able to assimilate in Canada, build a social circle. Rather, he also found work, and not just any work that brings him well-to-do income. So much so that he had to do a full career pivot in order to land in the position that he is in today. So more about him in the podcast. Now, before moving forward, in case you find any value from this video, I have two tasks for you. One, press the like button so I stay motivated. Second is press the subscribe button so you get notified as soon as I put in new content on this channel. Now on this channel, I post content pertaining to career and financial success for early and mid-career professionals. Now let's get rolling into the podcast. Hello friends. So today I have a very special guest with me, Junaid Zikr. And I know Junaid from a common friend. Actually, I needed some help in Canada with regards to an investment property. And I kid you not, he's one of the best guys I've come across with regards to advice and also being a real estate agent. So that was really helpful. And he kind of helped me with my investment property that I was working on. And here I am. So we met back in Canada. And then I thought it would be nice to bring him on the podcast and understand from him his journey of coming to Canada and what was the decision-making process and all. But before going into all that, Junaid, it would be nice if you can quickly introduce yourself, where are you from, and your quick journey to Canada.
Thank you, Veros, for inviting me to part of your podcast. My name is Junaid, as you know, and I moved to Canada in 2018. And every other new immigrants, the reason you come to Canada was to settle down and have a life in the future with yourself, family, and the kids. So that's like a very common theme. I don't think so I have a different reason to come to Canada as yours or a lot of other new immigrants come from the part of the world where we born and brought up. So that's the reason.
But why leave Dubai? Because it's easy to come from Pakistan, and it's a very clear case. But why leave Dubai? Because and you were in Dubai for how long? If you can speak to that as well.
So yeah, I lived in Dubai for almost 15 years. But of course, when I was almost 45, I moved to Canada with my kids growing up and effectively living in Middle East, whether it's Dubai or Saudi or any other part of the Middle East. Eventually, you need to figure out what is your permanent basis going to be with the kids growing up. You need to figure out which part of the world they're going to go to university, and so on and so forth, right? Because at the end of the day, with the Middle East, life is transitionary. Whether it is a 5 years transitionary or 20 years, eventually you'll have to go back where you came from because there is no residency or immigration. So effectively, I will have to figure out which part of the world I will have to go. So Canada was, I think, it's welcoming to a lot of immigrants no matter, doesn't matter which part of the world you come from. So I came for these two reasons, for the family and the kids. And
got it. So another question, which is why Canada? Why not? I understand it has to be a developed world, but why not US, Australia, or Europe?
I think I looked at a lot of these countries, starting from Australia, UK, US, and Canada. I think the Canada, which is more like home, because a lot of Asians, a lot of Southeast Asian, Arabic speaking, there are a lot of common elements which make you feel like home. So, I mean, US also a lot of Pakistanis, Indians, and Asian, but I think Canadian is most easiest in terms of immigration as versus US. US take a long time. Even if you manage to get initial into the immigration cycle, it takes a long. The cycle is quite long, like I think 10 years or more than that. So, but Canada is the shortest in terms of compared to others. UK also takes a longer time. Yeah.
Cool. No, that makes sense. Additionally, I also speak to, when I coach people, that also you should look where your social circle is, because more or less you'll find job here and there in any case. But I think it's important that you land in a country where you're going to also find some social circle, given that is very important for you to settle down well. But thanks for sharing that. Now, you said you immigrated when you were 45, if that's true,
yes,
right?
Sort of.
Yeah. So can you talk about that? Because another piece of advice that I give people is that you should ideally come between the age of 30 to 40. That is ideal. And if you have to pick a number, it would be 35. You coming at 45, if you would have called me before coming to Canada, I would be very skeptical. But you made it here and you are a success story. So I would like to understand, what was the challenge going on in your mind with regards to your age? And again, age is just a number. I don't mean age in terms of number, but I mean more getting job in the Canadian market. That is kind of, at times I've found it problematic. So if you can speak to that, how did you go about thinking of the economics and the financial piece of it?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely spot on. Canadian immigration now, more so as compared to the 5-10 years back, more conducive for the young generation, starting with the students who comes here and to continue your journey with a work permit and PR card, because they want anybody studying in the Canadian school system, they want them to stay back as a skilled labor force. When I came in here, I knew that I will have a lot of challenges, because no matter how much experience I had, it was all about emerging market, right? Middle East, Southeast Asia, Africa. So I had no experience of working in a North American market. I had no education qualification from the North American, whether Canada, US, or even for the matter UK. So I born and brought in Pakistan, worked in Dubai. I've got a lot of experience working in Dubai with a lot of international countries. But when you come to North America is quite different. So I knew that I will have challenges in finding a job. And I was right. When I started looking for a job, the first hurdle I faced that I don't have any Canadian experience or a US experience for that matter. Though the experience I had in my financial world, it was quite skillful, but I didn't have an experience of working in a North American environment. Though I have done a lot of interviews and I have tried to explain and prove myself, but there's always a hurdle in that aspect. And on top of that, my age. So my hiring manager was much younger than mine, so it's always difficult to convince them. And so that was another hurdle. So I knew from before I came here, though I tried looking for a job to make sure that I never had a regret that I didn't try. So I tried, but I sooner realized that I will have to do something where I can use my skill set the way I want to use it, right? So I looked at the economy, I looked at the sectors, the banking sector, the telecom sector, the technology sector, and the real estate. Especially with the growing economy, growing immigrant population, they always need to build more and more real estate, right? Whether it be housing, commercial, or office space. And giving my background with the finance education, with the banking knowledge, and with the bit of investment knowledge where I have dealt with different type of investment, including the real estate, I thought that would be the best sector for me to try my skill set. So though I had a finance degree, being a CPA, I went and do the license for the real estate, because I realized that no matter what economic cycle is, up and down, real estate is something which always stay relevant, right? People don't stop eating food, people don't stop going to school, and people don't stop living in homes, right? You need a home to live, right? And then I also realized the Canadian economy and the stock market is not very deep as compared to US. A lot of people like to invest in real estate here. I mean, real estate is the number one investment product or a asset class, I would say, where majority of the people want to invest in real estate because where they make more money. I mean, look at the Canadian stock or any other investment cycle or any other investment options you have in Canada. Real estate comes as the topmost choice for majority of the Canadians, whether it's being Canadian for their second, third generation, or the person like yourself who've been here for like 5-7 years, or people like me. Everybody talk about investment in real estate. So when I come here at a new immigrant, you need to find a home to live, right? Whether you rent it or you invest or buy it. So anybody who come landing in Canada need a home, right? They look for job later, but look for the home first. So that's what a sort of thinking. Initially, I tried to look for a job. I find a job. I work for 6 months, then COVID happens. So everybody gets shut down. I also get laid off. And then I realized that I need to do something. So that's where I started studying for my license. And by the end of 2020, I had a license. So I started working since then. And I thought I'll give myself 2 years. And I think I'm not looking back. I don't regret the decision I made. So yeah.
So was this a plan B? As in, did you think about doing real estate before you came here? Or you were like, no, I'll find a job, it will be tough, but I'll look for a job, and that's where you started. But only when it didn't work out for you, you pivoted towards real estate.
No, before I came, I didn't think about real estate. But I knew that finding a job would be very tough. For me, especially the age group, not because of skill set, because of the age group. And of course, finding a job is also something. If you're younger, you find a job easier because there is that challenge goes away of the age. Though still there are other challenges, by the way, that we can talk later. But yeah, but I didn't think about real estate before I came here.
Got it. I think it's not just the age challenge because your age with the numbers, but it's also because of some ego as well. Like when I come, if I'm like in my 20s, if I come, I take a downgrade 2 or 3, it really doesn't hurt a lot. But when you've done certain level of projects or work back in the country, and then you have to come here and take like 2-3 levels down in your career, that's also an ego hit, which is very difficult to swallow. Although I recommend you should swallow because it's kind of given, you need to take a hit, but it's not easy. And the older you get, the harder it becomes. So I think that's another challenge which people usually face. The senior they are or the older they are when they come in. When I say senior, I mean senior in their careers. It's difficult for them to downgrade.
Yeah, I agree with you. But and a lot of people, especially when they come from Middle East, they work in a senior position. They have seen enough. But in my case, I knew that I will have to reset. So a lot of people ask me, how do you settle down mentally? So when I talk to people and interview everything else, a lot of people say that I'm willing to work, but I think the challenges are between the mental thinking and what they're saying doesn't reconcile. But when I came here, the one thing which I managed to do is I pressed the reset button. I forgot who I was and where I was, and I was willing to go down as a newly qualified person to start his career. Because especially when you come from a different continent with completely different dynamics and different work environment and communication dynamics, you will have to do that. And I learned this when I was working in Dubai as a part of my company. We used to set up offices in new countries. So the first thing we used to learn is do's and don'ts of that particular country. To set up a new office in any country, you need to understand do's and don'ts. whether do's and don'ts in terms of the legal and compliance or other social cultural issues, because you can't go and set up a business in any country until you understand those nuances and the very basic concept. So I apply the same logic when I came in, that I will have to learn the local nuances. I knew taxes across different parts of the jurisdiction, but I didn't know about the Canada. Though it's the same logic, same underlying concept, but I still have to learn the nomenclature and the term being used in taxation, right? And similarly, it applies to every field. You go and you move to one country or another country, or one country or another country. So I knew from the day one that I have to learn that. So to learn that, I have to reset everything what I knew, and start as a newborn baby or a newborn or a newly qualified person. So that issue wasn't there with me. I had to change my CV to show that I'm willing to start as an accountant. It's basic. Like I thought I am going back to Dubai 15 years back when I started 2003. But still, people thinking, when you work 15 years but still accountant, how is it possible? You never get promoted. So one of the interviews I had with the headhunter, she asked me, and I sent an edited CV, because edited resume, not CV, but people call it resume here, not CV. That's the first thing I learned. And it has to be very concise. It cannot be 3, 4, 5 pages of resume, right? It has to be 1 or 2 pages max, depending on your environment. So when I qualified in 97, I cannot edit that date, right? So people think you qualified in 97 and you did a CPA, and in 20 years you're still accountant. How is it possible? So one of the headhunters who spoke to me, I sent her an edited CV resume. After speaking to me for a year on a Zoom call like this, she asked me, okay, you told me what you did. Now tell me what you are actually. I said, what do you mean? I said, you are not what you're showing on a resume. So tell me what actually you are, then I will guide you what to be done. Because no matter what you pretend, you end up coming across someone who know more than what you're showing on the resume. Yeah. So I think I realized that it's not going to work out. So I have to do something on my own, and that's where I had an insurance option. I had a few other options like a financial consultancy, but I think real estate was something more lucrative, and I could advise people in a very different way.
Correct. No, makes sense. Now, before going deeper into your pivot to real estate, can you talk about how you were able to land your first job? And I ask this because for those who are coming, especially after 40, and they may be scared at going for real estate at the start, they may still want to start something, a desk job. Can you just speak to that, how you were able to land a desk job?
So I ended up getting a job because I started connecting with a lot of people within our community who were chartered accountant, a CPA. So there is a community here where all of them have come from Pakistan, and a lot of them have settled here and working in a finance positions, right? Some are the accounting firms, some are in the industry. So and a lot of them are who qualified way after I did qualify. I qualified in 97, right? So I start connecting with everyone. I start telling them, listen, and though I'm this and this, but I am willing to take a fresh start. Somehow I convinced one person who's very kind to me, very helpful, and he managed to find me refer me a very job, very strong reference, because he talked to me a few times, he understood me, and then he referred me to one of his clients, where I found an accounting job. Though it was a 2% job, 2% like finance team was 2% there. I was one of the junior person. So I was doing everything. I was doing accountant, I was CFO, I was finance manager, I was everything. So it was better than going in a big organization where I was an accountant and doing only the payables and receivables. I was doing everything. So that was the most. Before that, I had a lot of interviews, a lot of job hunting, a lot of applications, tons of but first interview, that's it. After they will call me, they will let me know, or they will come back to me. So I guess because they always find a better person than me, who are younger, more energetic, locally qualified, local experience. Because always somebody who working in Canada always looking for the next job, right? So people like me will have problems finding my first break. I had no issue giving interviews. I had no issue doing whatever I've been asked to do. But I think and I don't blame them, because if I was a hiring manager, I would do the same thing. I would hire someone If I have 3 CV resume in front of me, I would hire someone with a local experience, with local qualification. Why would I hire somebody 45 years who came from Middle East, had no idea about Canada? So I don't blame them. But to answer the question, I found the job because somebody knows me and somebody pushed me for that job with the confidence that I will be able to deliver. I will not be disappointed. So that's how I got my first break. But then, thankfully, I got laid out because everybody got laid out because COVID. Otherwise, I had problem leaving their job because I had to respect the person who referred me for that job.
Yeah, no, you're right. And this question never fails me because in Canada, networking is the key to getting jobs. And I've put a couple of videos on my channel as well where I talk about the power of networking. I didn't realize it is that powerful back in Dubai or in Pakistan. You still end up using recruiters or just applying online, but here it has to be through network. So thanks for sharing that.
I think people fail to understand what networking means, right? In a typical term, people understand networking that I know you and you have to refer me, right? But I think networking is beyond that. What I've learned when I started doing real estate. I didn't know at the time, right? So for my definition is networking is just, okay, I know someone, I call him and he will call someone, a hiring manager, to push him to hire me. But I think networking is, of course, that's one aspect of networking, right? I'm not denying that. But it sometimes becomes challenging for hiring manager. I'm sure you've been a hiring manager for some time now, and you would know that if I call you and recommend person X to hire for a job, you don't know what to do, right? And how to say no to me, because you like me, you trust me, you regard me, but then you may have other person who's better than what the person I referred you, right? So how do you basically make the judgment? And then if you hire someone I refer, you might come across in your organization somebody you're favoring someone, which is unfair, because within your company they won't understand. Even if you're hiring the person I refer is good enough, there's always some sort of question, like conflict issue, right? So I think network, in my view, when I started using LinkedIn, I was using LinkedIn as just a profiling, and in Dubai I was just connecting with people. I didn't need to use it because people used to connect with me. I didn't have to people like that because I was in a position where people used to come to me, right? When I came here, I didn't know how to use LinkedIn, right? And the LinkedIn is a very different platform than Facebook or Insta or any, for that matter, YouTube or any other one, right? I started learning LinkedIn when I started coming to real estate, and I realized that, and I told recently someone who came to here in Canada, I said, listen, LinkedIn, if you want to find a job through LinkedIn, I applied so many jobs on LinkedIn, I never get a call, never ever. And at the time I didn't know. Now I realize that I never put any content on LinkedIn. So in the old days, they only hire you if they know you well, and they have not only by person, but also know you in terms of your competence, right? Now, how do people know you, or hiring will know you, your competence, right? So LinkedIn is a marketplace, or the professional sort of chat box where you can demonstrate by putting a content and create a digital footprint, which allows the hiring manager, once your CV resume go in front of him, he will first thing he'll go nowadays is go to LinkedIn. And if you have a digital footprint, and if you demonstrate your understanding of the topics you're good at, he will say, okay, you have been posting this for last 1 year, you've been doing different topics, different discussion, you've been participating, you've been commenting, you've been doing this, doing that, or you're doing video content, or you're doing short posts, or writing a newsletter. He will realize that you stand out versus 1,000 CVs resume go to LinkedIn, because in LinkedIn, everything is AI driven. So you can make a resume with the words, but you never get picked up by the resume because you don't find about yourself anything. So that was one of the part of the networking people miss, especially in today's day and age, where, so if a person referred to you and he's good, he interviewed, come across good, he passed all the tests in LinkedIn, then you can say, oh, confidence, I'm hiring him. Otherwise you will have challenges. Yeah. So networking is not about that, okay, you know me, I know you, is also about your digital footprint. And I don't know if it makes sense.
I'm so glad you said that. And I stumbled on this fact, or on this hack, by chance. So I started posting on LinkedIn because I was doing YouTube, and I started posting my YouTube videos on LinkedIn because I wanted to get more views. And then I started seeing some traction, so I started posting some posts as well on LinkedIn. And all of that posting made LinkedIn realize that this guy is kind of important or relevant, and they started putting me up on the search. So recently, there was a recruiter who reached out to me, and they said they were searching for a head of finance role, and my name popped up in the top 3. And I was like, why? And then I looked back and I reflected back, and I was like, it's just because I started posting so much. And it's not just one example, by the way. Recently, since I started posting a lot, I started getting a lot of traction from recruiters saying every time they put in search, they find me in the top 3, top 10, or top 5, which makes them send me a message. And I think it is all because of me posting more and more on LinkedIn, because I am interacting more with LinkedIn. LinkedIn is the algorithm is putting me up on the search list, and it's kind of helping me. So you're right. And I stumbled on this hack like just by chance.
So LinkedIn is all about posting on a consistent basis. You cannot just post one video and sleep on it, or one text, or a one post, so I do I'm sure you notice I do very regularly, right? And I start writing newsletters and stuff. So anyway, we'll come to the later on, but that's networking. And especially nowadays, finding a job, LinkedIn is the tool which everybody has to learn using it. It cannot be, oh, I'm looking for a job, or I'm just applying for a job. It has to, it's all skill. Canada is all about skill base. If you cannot demonstrate, or you haven't demonstrated your skill set into those medium, you will not get noticed, no matter how good your resume is, because anybody can resume the way you want, right? That's a problem.
No, that's true, and you're so right about being consistent as well. You can't just post in 1 week, like do 10 posts and just forget about it. You have to think of it as in a long-term way. And I recommend, even after you get a job, you should still stay or relevant and stay a bit alive on LinkedIn, because it will help your career in future, if not today. Those small increments, those small interactions, and it's not just about posting, by the way, it's also about interacting with others and all. So you start logging up on the search results. Now, one more question. When you were shortlisting as to what to do other than going for a 9-to-5 job, what other options did you have other than real estate? And the reason I ask is because, as I said, there might be someone who is of the same profile as yourself and may still decide that I don't want to go into the real estate setup. I'd rather do something else, but I also understand that getting job is difficult. So if there were other things that you shortlisted, would be good to name them. If not, that is fine either.
So I looked at the businesses, import-export businesses. I started looking at what products Canada exports. One of them was like this forest in Alberta, where a lot of wood goes out to make the paper, and a few other things. There were a few other things in terms of the importing it from Pakistan or Middle East or London, for that matter. So I started searching those things. I worked on like seafood from Pakistan, rice, and there are so many, just to do some research. Because first few months I didn't do anything. I took a break, and then I started looking at those things by sitting at home and look at the immigration consultant. Being an immigration consultant, because a lot of businesses, and also looked at the insurances or insurances plus these financial products, like this in the banks you have these financial products like mortgages and mutual funds and life insurances stuff, and accounting job, like as an accountant, as a tax accountant, you need a lot of filing tax returns, individuals or businesses, and the real estate. So I chose real estate because real estate was more lucrative. I can do it my own time. I don't have to work 9-to-5 job. Whilst you're working 9 to 5 job, you always a dream to do your own stuff, your own time. So that was one of the things which fits the bill in real estate. And also the real estate allowed me to provide advisory services to people over mortgages, life insurance. I can do everything. I can do cross sales. which I don't do right now. I just do free advisory, and people love me because I don't need focus on sales. I focus on services. So I provide them all the advisory services, suggestions, and that's where I end up really doing real estate, because it allows me to do everything else.
No, Junaid, that is so true. And I remember when I connected with you first, this is what I realized. You were very much different from many other real estate agents that I interacted with, is because the language, and I don't mean language in the literal sense, but your communication and your language was far superior. And I could find a wavelength talking to you in terms of when I would talk about a certain investment and how I can flip it or how I can earn from it. And your advice was more than just buy the house. It was more of how do we think about it as an investment, as an asset and all. And that's why I always enjoyed connecting with you, seeking your advice, and also thank you for all of that.
Yeah.
Another question that I wanted to ask is, how long did it take you to do your real estate certification, or whatever it is referred as?
It must took me around 6 months, 6 months, 7 months.
Okay, so if someone wants to start doing this real estate, how do you refer it? Is it real estate certification or?
It's now is, yeah. So you passed. It has 6 or 7 exams. I think when I did it, it was a different regime. Now they moved to Humber College. So now Humber College run their program. Before there was another institute that shut down. So now they put the Humber College. It's a similar program, but they've tweaked the courses a bit more, and it's more over driven by Humber College. I think that you can do online also. If you go to Humber College website, you'll find all these information about that. Some people can do it 3 to 4 months. Some people can do it in take years time, but it depends on how quickly you can grasp the course content and to be able to pass the exam. Passing was, I think, 75% you have to pass, and you get 2 attempts to pass one course. I think around 6 courses.
Okay, cool.
And then once you pass the exam, you go and become the Toronto Real Estate Board or any other board, and you become the member, and then you start working. But I think it's not only pass the exam, then you have the practical knowledge, right? There are a lot of issues you need to have, right? Because but with my experience and background understanding, I picked up faster than a few other people, I guess, because we had experience of dealing with all those nuances, whether legal or business or financial accounting. Yeah, so that's how it helps me to do it better than or different than others. And one more thing which you just alluded to, that how, because when I came here, one thing people also told me, take a food franchise. But I said I never worked on food franchise. I worked in finance and investment. So why should I leave what my expertise are and go to a different business? Real estate is more close to what I'd be used to doing. It's similar to that. So that's how it works. Yeah.
Got it. Another point that people make, especially those who want to do part-time real estate, and there's always this hesitation that people say it's too competitive. There are so many real estate agents in Ontario or in GTA that it is extremely competitive, and I will be one drop in an ocean. Why bother? How true is that? And did you have that fear as well? And how did you overcome that fear?
So yeah, as part-time, anything part-time doesn't work. Yeah, I would say that if you already have a job, a day job like yourself, right? And if, let's suppose you want to come do the real estate, first step you have to pass the exam, right? Once you pass the exam, you start doing part-time, and then with the aim to move it to full-time. So you have to make a roadmap, 2 years time, and you have to work with someone who is willing to take you on your team, right? Because whilst you're doing part-time, no matter how much time you can effort and you can put in, you will always struggle, because client doesn't wait for the weekend. You said, oh, okay, I will call you on the weekend, I will show you the home. No, it has to be on a daily basis, right? So it's like when you open the shop for the toy, like you heard twice on the back of your screen, and you tell your customer, come on the Friday, Saturday, Sunday. During the weekdays, I'm closed. So that client will go to somewhere else, right? He will not wait for you to open up. unless there's some expertise you have that nobody else can provide, but that's not the case. So I think part-time is always challenging, no matter how good you are. But people still does it. They do it in the evening, they do it in the weekends. If you're doing every day evening, that's still manageable. But completely part-time on the weekends, no, it's going to be very challenging. You may end up doing 1 or 2 deals here and there, but not, you won't be able to successful. When I started this, of course, I had a fear in mind that there are 60,000 or 50,000, 6,000 agents in Ontario, right? So one thing I focus on, which is now when I look back in last 2 years successful, is service levels. I focus on service levels. I don't focus on sales. Sales happens. And given my expertise, I provide them services. I've been openly sharing the advices and suggestions. And I focus on each individual customers as my top. If you ask me who's my top customers, I will say everyone.
That's nice.
So I don't have number 1, 2, 3. I have all of them, whether they have done business with me or not. Anybody who's spoken to me once, he is my top customer. Whether he has done business with me or not yet, he will do it eventually. And it happens with me. A lot of people who have been spoken to me for some time, they didn't work with initially, but end up coming and working with me. And there are so many of like them. Because I focus on each and every. So when you call me through somebody referred you, I didn't told you what I told the other person. I told you what you were looking for.
Yeah, that's true.
So I focus on you. I don't focus on me. Because I spent 20 years on the buy side when people used to come and sell me. So I knew exactly what buyers are looking for. So when I never did sales before, as in sales. I did sales as an internal customer, as a finance guy, to convince my internal and external customers, but I didn't do sale as in sale I'm doing right now. So I focus on service levels and I focus on customer, that what that customer needs are and a solution problems are. So I focus on that, and effectively sales happen.
Nice. No, that makes sense. And I wanted to say that you continued, you said a couple of times your finance qualification, but I feel that it's not just finance, it's also good sales skills that you have, which kind of helps you in your profession. One question I had was, and I think you kind of touched on it, was with regards to mental health. And the reason I ask this is because when you don't have a job here, when you leave a thriving career in Middle East, the income levels, the luxury, and you come here, you get laid off from a job, and now you're working towards, as I said, despite it being, there are also part-time contributors in the real estate market, but it's still comparative. And choosing a comparative profession, how did you manage those 6, 7, 8 months when you didn't have a job and you were working on your qualification and license? How did you keep yourself motivated and on the path and strong mentally?
So I think one of the things that I did is that I was willing to take a fresh start. The first thing, I very early on, when you're on the phone, you press the reset button, everything's scrapped. This is what I did. I stopped thinking who I was and where I used to live. That's the first thing. Secondly, I was blessed that I had some bit of savings, which allows me to have a runway for me to that be settling period, right? Because a lot of people when come here, they don't have savings. So sometimes they get stressed out. But I think if I didn't have saving, I would have gone and worked anywhere. $15 an hour, I would have done it. Because I'm not going to sit at home and wait for somebody like Behroz come and Junaid, there's a job for you. It won't happen. It will never happen. No matter how lucky I am, you have to make an effort. So I knew that there is one, because I remember when I moved to Dubai in 2003, right? I remember that I didn't have a job. I resigned in Pakistan and I came on a visit to Dubai. I started looking for a job. I have so many interviews, so many phone calls, it took me 3 months. And my visa expired. In those days, visa used to expire, right? I had to go back. So last week, I got 2 job offers. And I got one of them. And I knew there's one, I'm only looking for one job. I'm not looking for 10 jobs, right? So eventually I will find it something, right? So some people ask me in interview, you resign and you come and looking for a job. He said, fine. It's just a matter of time. It's only one job. Eventually I will find it. I will keep looking for it and eventually I get there. So I think the people which made a mistake here become distressed and worried about too much. Um, everybody's time body clock is different, right? Everybody clock is different. Some people find job. I recently talked to someone. I think you referred to one client. He's come here for a job. The company invited him, paid him the ticket to get him a job. You know whom I'm talking about, right? So I won't take the name here. But so there are lucky people like him. The company in Canada inviting him to come here on a company paid visit to look for a show them what they're doing. I mean, I have never seen, like, he must have a skill set which is needed here, right? But a lot of people come here and they look for a job, they get stressed out. But I think it's about mental strength also, right? Because I've been working for 25 years, never been have a day off. So I took this time as a blessing that, okay, God has given me that time off. So I enjoyed that time, and eventually I find something. It took me like 8, 9, 10 months to start have a first paycheck. It was good to have it, but then after 6 months, realized that it's not for me. And then COVID happens, thankfully. A blessing in disguise, and I laid off. I had 3 months more to think about it. That should I continue that job or should I? And they called me back. I didn't go. Frankly speaking, I said I will continue my real estate licensing and I will start doing that.
Nice. You know, one thing which is very much common I found across almost all immigrants that I know who made it successfully in Canada is the mindset. All of them came with the mindset, and most of them, I can say the phrase, they would say, I'm even ready to deliver pizzas.
Yes.
But I want to make big in this country. I want to come in this country and I want to work in this country, settle here, even if that means I'll deliver pizzas. And when you have that mindset,
even Uber,
you can tell.
People doing Uber, they make more money in Uber than doing my job. I was willing to go on the cash counter of the bank, teller. I mean, these jobs you'll easily get. I mean, you don't require any rocket scientists in that.
And the point is, you don't need to do those jobs. You just need to have the mindset that you are ready. And
Yes.
if you are ready, it's just the mindset, because then when you will approach your career, your interviews, your license for real estate, you will approach it with that mindset where that I am willing and ready to put in hours, days, whatever it takes for me to be successful. So that attitude where you have this thing that I'm ready to do anything for me to settle here and settle strong, that will always result in success. And I've not seen anyone struggling more than with this mindset, struggling more than 6 to 8 months. They eventually make it. And you would agree that as time passes by, as we have more network and more friends here, more Desi folks from India, Pakistan, Bangladesh coming here, you have more and a bigger network you can tap into, and which will eventually help you get the job. So I completely subscribe to that mentality. So thank you so far. Now I want to move into one important part, an important question, and which is a question that you would I'm sure you would get every time you are in a social gathering, whether you are invited. This happens to me every time I go in a social gathering in Canada and there is someone who's a real estate agent, and suddenly the discussion is all about him, and not about him, but all about real estate, and all the discussion just faces that particular person. So coming to that part, and think of, when you answer, think of someone who's coming new to Canada, because a lot of audience that I have on my channel are usually folks who are either wanting to come to Canada or have recently moved to Canada. So what kind of one advice would you give them in terms of real estate investment, buying a house? Is this the right time or not? What kind of house area to look for? Again, I know this is a very expanded topic, so I don't intend to have another 1 hour podcast session on it. Maybe we have a separate one for this. But if you can just give a few tips for someone who's coming afresh with regards to real estate investment or buying a house here.
Anybody who's coming as a new immigrant, right? I think everybody's situation is quite different, right? And a lot of people come to me as a new immigrant or the first time home buyer, and typically most of them start with a rental for the first year, or the first few months or first year, and then they move to the buying aspect, because a lot of people don't have a job at the time they come in. So I have seen a lot of people who start with the rental and then they go and they look for the buying, because I always advise them, because you don't have a job, you are not settling down, even if they have a down payment, um, but they don't have a job, right? So most of the time people go for a year for rental and then start look for the buying, and that's what I tell them, that don't rush to in buying decision. Take your time. If somebody has got enough money in the back pocket, that's a different story. But most of them don't have enough, or even they have, the mortgage will have issues because they don't have job. So the minimum you need without a job for the first time or new immigrant is 35%. You can only do 20% down if you have a job. Some people have job, but not all of them. So everybody's situation is different, but typically starting with the rental and then move to buying.
Okay, let me make a comment to this and then move to another question. I'm glad you said it, because I made that mistake. And I would even say, even if you have money, go for rental first. And I think this is your advice as well. And thanks for saying that. I made a mistake of buying the house when I came without a job. I could afford it because I had some savings from from Dubai. But the challenge was, despite me not having the job, I did buy it, but then I didn't know where my office would be. And I ended up buying in a place which was very far from where I found work. And now I was like, okay, so I just commute. And I was better off if I would have gone for rental. But when I came, people were like, market is going up, market is going up. This is the right time to invest. If you don't invest, you'll miss the train and all. You never miss the train. Like, there are ups and downs. You'll get an up, you'll get an down. And there are even moments when you'll get an up, you buy. But on the long run, if you look everything on the long run basis, you will even out. So that is what I recommend people now, which is, it's not just about whether you have the money or not. It's more for you to know where you want to settle. And that you'll only know once you know where your job is, where your family is, where your friends are, which city you like more. So it's better to start with rental, get a feel of Ontario, Canada, or wherever you are in Canada, and only then decide on buying.
So there's no right and wrong answer, but most will typically start with rental. But there are some people who come here and commute because they have a job somewhere outside or a business outside. So for them, they have enough money. For them, it's a different issue. But typically, people come here look for a job. Most of them are like them. So yeah, you're right. So take your time.
Fair. Now, one last investment question, which is this the right time? So let's assume there's someone who's rented for a year, and now they're thinking whether I should invest now or not. And the reason I say this is the right time is because of how the interest rates have gone up. What is your advice to them?
If you look at my LinkedIn newsletters, and if the last few months I've been saying that interest rate is not going to go up any further. Even if it does, it will go by like 25 basis point to 50 basis point, right? Day before yesterday, US raised another interest rate, but Canada did not, right? Because Canada is a different economy than US. They used to follow US, but I think last two times they stopped following in terms of the rate hike. I think last year, April, February, was peak, and then March, April, people start talking about interest rate hike up, market start slowing down, and June, July, August. And now hindsight, October, November, December was the bottom. Whatever October, November pricing, right now pricing is 10% up as compared to last Q4 of 2022. Because for simple reason is the interest rate is not going up. Even if it does go up, it will be maybe another 25 basis point. So market in anticipation of interest rate not going up, it means it will go down. It may go down from a year from now. It may go down 6 months from now. It may go down 2 years from now. Nobody knows, but it will not be going up. So Canadian market, unlike Pakistan, Dubai, Turkey, real estate market, or UK, to a certain extent, UK is mixed. But like Pakistan is all cash based, right? Nobody buys on mortgage. Bank doesn't provide you any property mortgage. Dubai, there's a mortgage, but vast majority is cash. So right now, Dubai is at peak. Canadian market was down last year. Dubai was peaking because all cash. So in Dubai and in Canada, is purely and directly linked to interest rate. So interest rate goes up, market goes down. Interest rate anticipation of going down, market start picking up. So in a very simple layman language, market was was standstill until last year, until this February mid. Second half February and March, April, markets start walking again. I'm just trying to make it very crude layman language where the market start walking again. Still, the single homes have more demand and more buyers than the condominium. Single homes are going faster than condominium. Condominium market is still okay, but it is not going down from here. It will go in the range bound. From October, November, I have done few deals in October, November, December. The same deals are now 10% uprising across the board. But from here, the more demand is for single housing versus condominium. But I think we're getting into summer months, which is going to be more demand, a lot of immigrants coming in. So this market hold it up, even after interest rate went up to 6%, market holding up because of a lot of demand on new demand. If there was no immigrants, then market would have been crashed big time.
Yeah, and that's another thing that I wanted to ask, which is when I sit with friends, they also make this point at times, which is the market has gone up so much. How more up will it go? So now I understand if there's someone who wants to buy a house to live, it makes sense. They buy a house, they live there. But if someone who wants to invest, should they be investing in Canada, or Canada has already peaked to the point where they won't see abnormal or excessive or growth on their returns or on their investment? Is that true, or and if yes, to what extent?
So I think the number of factors. If you look at 5, 7, 8 years back, Canadian US dollar parity was different. So Canadian dollar had lost a lot of value versus US, right? Almost 30%, 35%. I mean, 25%, right? So that's one factor you need to consider while valuing your asset, right? The purchasing power has gone down of Canadian dollar. Secondly, that a lot of new money coming in with immigrants. Every immigrant is bringing some savings along with that, right? Some people bringing in 5%, some people bringing 20%, 25%, which help them pay the down payment, right? They're not start earning and they already have a down payment. Third thing is that core GTA. it's crazy demand, right? Because the most of the jobs are here. Go to Alberta, go to Calgary, go to Edmonton, go to Winnipeg. Market is not there. The incremental value is not there, right? So if you look at the core GTA, starting with all those main GTA and the wider GTA, the horseshoe, what you call it, right? So you will always see incremental because it's a growth pain, right? Any growing economy or a city, if you look at all the economic statistics, cities grows faster than the country, right? So if a country is growing by 10% GDP, city is growing 20%. Why? Because everybody want to live in cities. Nobody want to live in, in remote areas. So I don't think so you can stop that growth. Along with the lot of QE, quantitative easing, a lot of money been printed. So dollar is lose its worth. I think going forward with a lot of hyperinflationary or what a high inflation environment. I mean, I'm not an economist by any measure, but whatever understanding I have by looking at the trends, I think going forward, asset will hold more value than the cash. It used to be cash is king, but I think asset will hold more value. And hardcore real estate asset versus stocks. Stocks goes up and down, but I think some stocks on the long-term compounding, you see an amazing return, right? But you need to have patience to hold it for that long period. Similar with the real estate asset. If you want to make money real estate in flipping in 2 years' time, it's not for you. You need an investment cycle of 5 years unless you can time the market right.
True, which is, I think, for you to time the market, you really need to be in the market, studying the market, following the market. For someone like me, at least, who has a day job, plus some passion like podcasting and YouTubing, it is almost impossible for me to follow the market. And I'd rather stick for the long term and just invest for the long term. And that's what I do. That's what I advise as well.
And one more reason the market will not go down further, because when you bought the home, you're not selling it for next 10, 15, 20 years because staying here. It's not Dubai where people come and go, right? It's not transitory. It's people come here, stay here, and the next generation stays here. So I have seen families who came 15 years back, their kids, three kids, 4 kids, 2 kids, all of them grown up, studied, have a job, and they bought their home. So one family become 3 homes, 4 homes, depending on how many kids you have, and the increase goes up, they have family, they get married, so they move out. So it's not going down anywhere because there's no housing left.
Cool, and that's a great point, by the way. I never thought of that, but you're right. This is not transitory. People here invest for very long term. So, Junaid, thank you. Thanks for this connect. Now, I just have one last request from you, which is rather two last requests. One, if you can share with us or with the listeners, where can they find you for connecting with you for any advice? You mentioned your newsletter, but any other forums where they can find you. And second, if you can share some parting words with regards to any advice that you have for new immigrants coming in, especially if they are 40 plus or kind of have the same profile as yourself, if there is any advice you can share for them.
So I think I can share my links in your video link. I mean, I don't think I would say something that people remember it, but they can click it and then you can find me anywhere. I have a website, I have on the social media platform, my number, emails, website, everywhere is there openly. So I do post very regularly on all the platform, either be LinkedIn, Facebook, Insta. I started YouTube channel, but I'm not posting as much as did. I saw you have been, but that's my next goal, video content. On terms of the advice, I think I just said mental strength, mental capacity, or the mental willingness to settle down in a new country. I mean, when we grown up, when it's finished our initial education or corporate qualification, we have struggled to find a job. So that's the struggle you need to have again, no matter what job, what age bracket you are in or where you are. So the moment you move to a new country, is always a transitionary period. So you have to, when you come here, you need to keep it 1 year at least in your mind that is a transitionary period. And if you're mentally not comfortable, mentally not settled down, of keep thinking what you were and where you were, it will be really, really challenging mentally and physically, because that will you want to go forward, but you keep pulling back yourself. So that's the first and most important thing I think is there. And then secondly, be open. Don't be restrict yourself from what you were doing before. But I don't want to completely change your field. I didn't completely change my field. I just going to a similar sort of mindset, because I worked in 25 years in the finance field. If I start doing running a pizza shop, it will be a bit challenge for me. It's not for me. I can go and stand in a Walmart, or I can do the bank counter job, or I can do stuff. But running a pizza outlet or any other stuff, I'm not. Maybe I like cooking, but I cannot run that shop. I knew that. So at least everybody knows in their heart and mind what they're good at. So I think the best bet is to focus on that initially, and then if luck or destiny take you somewhere else, then of course a different story.
Cool. Thank you, Junaid. It was lovely chatting with you, and I got to know more about you than I already knew. So it was kind of a good connect between us as well. I will leave the links to your social media in the description of this video. And again, thank you and best of luck for your future in Canada. And again, thanks for your time.
A pleasure to having me. And I really love to have the conversation with you, because I saw your YouTube channel lately more than I used to. So you are doing a great job. I think you're not only trying to build your own YouTube channel, but also giving a lot of good advices. I think it's helpful. I mean, I saw some of the videos have got 70,000-80,000 showing, right? This is a huge. I'm sure there are people liking that particular videos. I think the content you are telling people is something very useful to a lot of people.
Yeah. No, I've started to enjoy as well. You're right. When you start really adding value to people's lives, that's when you start having fun. And when you start having fun at anything, it just starts doing good. So I'm having fun. It's doing good. So I'm enjoying it.
Okay.
Cool.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Junaid.
Right.
See ya. Thank you for watching this podcast. I'm sure you found great value from listening into Junaid's journey. In case you did, I'm also sure you will find great value in another video that I've posted on my channel, where I talk about how to get a job in Canada in the most fastest way. Check out that video. Other than that, there is another video where I talk about the 7 mistakes that you need to avoid when coming to Canada. Check out the video here. Thank you.